Good morning and welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. Bank of America is offering zero down payment home loans and zero closing costs to African Americans and minority borrowers. They're specifically targeting African American and minority borrowers, although this is available to most. But critics have a problem with it, and we will discuss why with Jeannetta Collier, a real estate expert in Texas, Eric Stewart, mortgage expert from Baltimore, and James Wright of the Washington Informer. But first, a couple of headlines with James to start your Thursday morning. Good morning, James. How are you?
Good morning, Stacy. Always good to be on the show.
Always good to have you, James. Brooklyn prosecutors are seeking to throw out 378 criminal convictions, mostly low-level drug offenses and traffic offenses dating to 1999 that relied on 13 former New York City police officers who were later convicted of crimes related to their work. The move is part of an expansive effort by prosecutors across the city to review cases, even decades old, that involve discredited police officers. It reflects a broader push to scrutinize police testimony and a recognition of the catastrophic effects that even misdemeanor convictions can have on people. It would be among the largest mass dismissal of convictions in the country, according to data collected by the National Registry of Exonerations. James, last fall, the Queens District Attorney moved to dismiss 60 such cases. The Bronx District Attorney also vacated more than 250 convictions that relied on a single police officer who has since been accused of lying in other cases. The total is expected to rise to about 496. That's a lot. So New York City has a major corruption problem with its officers. All of these convictions dating back to 1999 are now being vacated. How do you clean that up, James?
Well, I think this is a good start. I think this is a good start because you have to get to the root of the problem in terms of some of these convictions. And that was the police officer. The police officer was not forthcoming. The police officer lied. That is wrong. That is a violation of public trust. So I think this is a good start, particularly in Queens and Brooklyn, as you mentioned. But this really should be throughout the country. And I think that as we say, things start in California. Hey, this is really getting started in New York City, and it should spread across the country. I believe Marilyn Mosby of Baltimore was moving in that direction, but she didn't get reelected. But I think that there's a move in terms of that.
James, so because I have you, I can ask you this question because we're talking about history. Going to go back a little bit. You remember the movie Serpico?
Yes, I do.
And so that was about New York City corruption in the police department and the challenges the Al Pacino character faced in trying to clean up corruption. And it rose all the way almost to one police plaza. So it's a dangerous thing too. What that movie highlighted, how dangerous it is for cops to police cops, and it's still that way, isn't it?
Yes, it is. As a matter of fact, internal affairs is one assignment that police officers do not want to get. It's sort of like being a member of the U.S. House of Representatives and being assigned to the ethics committee. That's not an assignment that you really want. However, it is necessary that internal affairs functions properly because it inculcates the public trust. And if you can't trust your police officers who are supposed to keep you safe, who can you trust?
Yeah, so that's hard. Notes that wrongful conviction day is October 2nd, and it happens all over. She says, I cover false rape convictions. Um, David Youngblood says, now do a review nationwide, as you said. So we'll keep our eye on what's happening in the Big Apple because this is some 496 convictions being
Yeah.
vacated now. David Youngblood also says the DOJ should have a department dedicated to reviewing convictions. And good morning to Hugh Ivey. So also this morning, we take a look back to yesterday. Former President Barack Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama, they made the official White House portraits. Well, it was the unveiling of their official White House portraits, and it was pretty emotional at the White House on Wednesday, making their first joint visit to the building since they left in 2017, and the return of a Washington tradition last celebrated 10 years ago. The history making portraits stand in contrast to those of other U.S. presidents and their
Mhm.
spouses hung on the White House walls, depicting the first Black president and First Lady through the perspectives of contemporary artists working outside many of the conventions of traditional political portraiture. James, Obama said he was glad to be back. He said it was almost like a family reunion there because they had a lot of the staffers from the Obama Biden administration. Obviously, we remember Biden was Obama's vice president, but he said he especially missed Air Force One.
Mm, I would miss Air Force One too because that's a wonderful plane and where you can just have a wonderful time as the chief executive and can travel around the world. That was such a powerful ceremony, Stacy. Uh, and I look at those portraits. Those portraits are beautiful. I've seen past presidential portraits, and those portraits make the presidents and the first ladies look wooden and sullen. But the these portraits make them look, I will have to say, human. The president looking distinguished, the first lady looking relaxed and sort of
She looks
motherly, sort
distinguished
of.
too.
Yeah, yeah, but distinguished and relaxed, and as opposed to being stiff like Nancy Reagan's was
Oh
stiff.
gosh, he's
So,
criticizing Nancy. Nancy is like 200 years old. She passed away, right? I mean, why are you criticizing old people?
yeah,
You don't be doing that on this show. We don't do that. Come on now. She stiff.
no,
But
I
but
love it.
James, but James, um, so and Michelle talked about, she got a little political. She had, and you understand. I mean, she talked about this democracy, and obviously the Obamas are like many. They are appalled at what has happened to American democracy. We've seen whether you're an Obama supporter, fan, etc. One thing is for certain about the Obamas, they really did bring a well, I'm just going to say it this way. They brought a lot of class to that building on
Yes, they
Pennsylvania
did.
Avenue.
Yes, they did. No major scandals. No major scandals at all. They brought a lot of class. The girls that they raised, they were dignified young ladies who are off to college and are doing things, not hanging out at bars and running around the country doing all kind of silly things. They were the epitome of class in the White House, and that had not come along in a long time. Yes,
Is
definitely.
that why too? I mean, the type of class we talk about being presidential is that, and the class, and then we had Trump for 4 years, and we know, whether you are, a Trump supporter or Trump or anti-Trump or whatever, we know that there was a lot of chaos. I mean, this is just, telling it like it is, a lot of chaos for 4 years in the White House, in the country, around the world because of what was coming out of Pennsylvania Avenue, and now we have Biden. Is that why um, Biden is not that popular overall when you think about it? Because he's following 8 years of class with Obama, and then 4 years of just absolute, just flat out chaos and just some wackiness
Hmm.
to levels never ever seen before. And now you got this guy Biden comes in, uh, and people just have not been feeling him despite the success he's
Hmm.
had quietly. And we
Yes.
say quietly because the media has pretty much ignored a lot of the successes of the Biden administration. Is that would you say that's why his popularity is not perhaps where it should be based on the success he's had?
You bring up a good point, Stacey. The country is divided. And when Joe Biden became president, this country was seriously divided, and it still is. It would take a Herculean effort for him to bring people together because you have one group going one way, you have another group going another way. And these groups are so dogmatic in their beliefs that they don't see themselves as Americans as we all should see ourselves as Americans. They just see what they believe and they hear what they want to hear. And it would take he should get a lot of credit, and history credit Biden
Yeah, I
for
think
his
so.
outstanding
I think
achievements.
down the road,
Yeah,
you'll read some very favorable portraits, if you will, of Biden's presidency. Even if it just lasts the 4 years, I think you will see a lot of people saying, you know what, this guy really did a
yeah,
phenomenal job. He
yes,
did he did something that most politicians don't even try to do, and that is live up to campaign promises. And that is something that's extraordinary in itself. But um,
yes,
you know, and the thing about it with the Obama portrait is too that the presidents that come in after you. So in the case of Obama, would have been Trump, but Trump spent 4 years trying to erase the fact that there was even an Obama in the White House. So he never carried on the tradition of having this ceremony we saw yesterday, which really was a really great ceremony yesterday, especially given how White House ceremonies usually go. They usually, this, you know what they are. Quite frankly, they're boring.
well, well,
They're
well,
perfunctory, they're boring,
yeah,
and of course, Obama, just the walk, and again,
hmm,
I could care less who about things like that, but just his walk, James, that dude walking like it reminds me so, in a way that not that he walks like him, but Denzel. When Denzel walks into a room, and I happen to be in a room when Denzel walked in,
hmm,
Denzel has arrived, right?
yes,
When
yes,
Obama is walking there, Biden seems like, and I understand why he stays away from one reason he stays away from the White House because, it's like Biden has to cede to him. This
hmm,
is the man. This is the president. When Obama
yes,
he has this swagger
yes,
that
yes,
no other
and
president. I don't care who you. At least since I've been now, you a historian. You go back to before time. Any
well,
any other president had this swagger or even close?
the one I would have to say would be John F. Kennedy.
Yeah, I knew you
And
was gonna
John
say
F.
that.
Kennedy would have that swagger because he represented newness, he represented freshness from the quote oldness of the Eisenhower administration. So I would have to say that, Bill Clinton really didn't have that type of swagger. Bill Clinton had sort of like the all shucks type of,
Oh shucks.
yeah,
Well,
yeah. I'm
James,
just here at the podium speaking, sort of thing.
yeah,
So, but you're right. Obama definitely had the class, and we have not had anybody like that since President Obama left the White House. And you are absolutely right also about President Trump. No class at all, and he didn't care.
yeah. Now turn our attention to Bank of America. Let's bring on our guest, Jeannetta Collier, a real estate expert in Texas, and Eric Stewart, a mortgage expert from Baltimore. Good morning, Jeannetta and Eric.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks. Good morning, and thanks so much for joining us. They say ladies first, Eric. So we're gonna go to Jeannetta out in Texas. This Bank of America is offering these zero down payment, zero closing costs home loans, and we know that in the past, so in 2008, when that happened, there were some the first reaction for many, I should say, was to wonder if this was 2008 all over again. Are we really doing these types of loans and promoting home ownership again without understanding the risk? Janetta, could you weigh in on that, please?
Yes. So, yes, as you said, Bank of America is offering zero down, offering all to pay all the closing costs, and using a different type of credit check, which is your bank statements, apartment, how you've been paying on your apartment. Maybe they're looking at phone bills, things of that nature. And I concur. I feel like it's going all the way back to 2008 when we had um, the real estate crisis, the crash of the real estate market because they were doing these subprime and predatory loans. And at that time, they was giving you just stated loans. You tell them how much money you made, and they will give you a loan for that. My concern is that we're setting people up for failure, and I say that because Bank of America is also when it first came out, they said it was only for Latinos and Black Americans to go out to these neighborhoods to find a home, to the minority neighborhoods, the Latino and Black neighborhoods to find a home. Now they have opened it up to everyone. But as you know, if you're telling someone that you have to go to a certain neighborhood to purchase,
Hmm.
okay, they're not saying we're going to give you these loans and you can go and purchase anywhere, but you have to go to Latino and Black neighborhood to purchase, then that's just another form of redlining.
Hmm. Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
that's just another form of redlining. I noticed that Bank of America has also kind of changed the rules since it first came out. You know, and
They
I
heard
think
the pushback, right?
they're getting pushback because this is just setting people up for failure. Now, I also know that they stated that they will give you a home ownership course, a certificate of things of that nature. But my question is, if you can't save for a down payment, if you can't save for your closing costs, what are they setting you up for? They're setting you up for higher interest rate, okay, for subprime, higher interest rate. And we really don't need Bank of America doing this because the government is already doing it. They have FHAs that back their loans 3.5%. They have Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and then also you have builders out there that if you give them $500 or some if you give them zero, they will pay your closing costs. They will do all of these things for you. And you
Hmm.
can go and purchase a house anywhere.
Right.
So my question is, what is really going on? I've done a little bit of research, and what I found is Blackstone purchased a lot of homes over several years in minority neighborhoods. Now these homes has to be sold or has have to be rented out. But I also noticed in my research that Bank of America owns 1.05% of Blackstone, BlackRock, um, stocks, which
Hmm.
equate to $1 billion and
Hmm.
then some. So, in my eye, what is really going on? I need people to really do their research. Now, I'm not saying don't do it because, as we know, generational wealth is the fastest way to wealth. Having a home,
Yeah,
okay?
but you don't want, but Janetta, you don't want to be scammed either, because we saw people had to walk away from their homes back during the recession. Let me just quickly go to Eric, and we'll come back because I love the information you're bringing out. Some of that has not been brought out, but Eric, um, these loans certainly, as Janetta spelled out, they have some huge risks, but there are going to be some desperate people, right?
Um, I cannot agree that these loans and yes, it is a slippery slope. However, I was in the heat of the 2008 crisis and everything that led up to it. That was irresponsible lending. Here with Bank of America, they are having you take a home ownership class. The guidelines that they're speaking of proving your rent and showing that you pay your phone bill on time and other utilities on time and what is called alternative credit is nothing new. These are the same guidelines that are available today for someone who does not have a credit score. Everyone does not subscribe to credit. That does not make them a bad risk. If they pay their rent on time, they should pay their mortgage on time. If they pay their phone bill, utilities, and other alternative credit methods, it is no different than making a payment to a credit card. A credit card actually is a worse thing than something that is necessary. And if you can show responsibility there, it should translate over to a mortgage. There's nothing different about a mortgage than a rent. However, owning a home does carry additional responsibilities. So they got that part right. This is not predatory lending at its core. And because, and Jeannetta pointed out, because there is a zero down option does not mean that this is predatory lending. 100% financing doesn't mean that it's predatory. It's not predatory for you to get an apartment, and you have to put just a security deposit and a first month's rent. So I do believe that home ownership is the way to generational wealth. And let's see now where they are getting it wrong. Here's the problem. There should be a requirement for reserves because you shouldn't come into a home with $0 in your pocket. Because you didn't spend those dollars for a down payment to grow some equity first, to have a little bit of equity or skin in the game, as we like to say, that is a problem. So I do believe that someone coming into this program should be required to have 6 months of mortgage payments saved in the bank and they be verified. I believe that's an adjustment that could be made. The problem that I really have here is no one is pointing out the elephant in the room, which is that this is not specific to African Americans and Latinos.
Yeah,
This
I
is
think Jeanetta
specific
did.
to,
She brought that out though. That
yes,
it's
she
not
did.
just
She
yeah.
touched on it and spoke of redlining. My concern is reverse redlining, and that this is a way that could very quickly turn into um, gentrification hidden on the mask of equality, so that we now will see disproportionate amount of folks that don't look like those folks in those neighborhoods being able to come in and swoop up the houses with zero interest, zero vested. And the next thing you know, those neighborhoods are no longer Latino and African American. Bank of America might be more well suited to come into African American and Latino neighborhoods, make money available exclusively to them, but then also to invest more in those communities, in supermarkets, in schools. That when
So
you can build a community around the home ownership initiative and make homes not only affordable to folks, but make those communities desirable. That's the challenge that
mhm.
we haven't seen overcome.
Jeanetta, let me just raise up this, lift up Celeste Hart's comment here, and perhaps you can comment on this because it seems like you are very well versed in what Bank of America has done here. Celeste says, "I'm trying to get into that program. There is an issue with that counseling certificate. They want you to go through certain organizations, but those aren't on the same page. The class costs $60. I took one and it's not accepted. So there's some loopholes here as well. Want you to respond to that, and please do respond to Eric's comments as well.
Okay, so let me respond to Eric's comment right quick. As far as Bank of America coming into the communities and bringing the communities up, I totally agree with that, but I don't see that happening. And I don't see that happening because they haven't done it before. Now, I know they are trying to circle around the wagon and bring something to the community, but as we know, when you in a subpar community, and a lot of the communities may be subpar. I'm not saying all of them. You have food deserts, meaning you don't have your grocery stores there. You don't have a Sprouts. You don't have a Market Street there. You have a bunch of fast food restaurants, as we know that is bad for our community. You don't have your hospitals there. You don't have your services there. So I wonder what is the real thing behind this Bank of America project. That's the first thing. And to
Mm-hmm.
answer the young lady's question, I'm not familiar with their first time home buyers program. I feel at this time that they should allow other people to come in and assist them with that. People who have the experience to do that, because I just feel like Bank of America has an agenda, and if and the agenda, it's not I don't feel they're really being open to what's really going on. And I like the ideal of them trying to offer this, but I also feel like they need to get within the community and find out what the community need in order for them to qualify for these homes, in order for them to take these courses that make sense for them. And maybe why is it that they are not allowing people to come and take the courses for free?
Mm.
You
And
know?
you mentioned this, and Eric was going down this path too about the equity aspect of this. No down payment, no closing costs. So you start off pretty much, in some cases, you might start off where owing much more than the house is worth without any equity, negative equity. Um, should that part of the program be revisited?
I
Yeah,
I think
go ahead. Oh,
I,
go
I
ahead.
think it should. I think it should because when you go into a home and you're not putting in money down. Now, as we know, putting money down does not mean that that you're gonna walk out with equity in the home because
Mhm.
it always depend on the appraised value of the home. So first of all, we need to look at what are these houses appraising for, and then are we going in upside down, and
That's
then
the
we're
word.
going in with a higher interest rate. And then we're going in with you setting people up for failure. You're setting people up for bankruptcy, foreclosure, and losing their homes. And
Now,
I just feel like if you really want a home, take the time to get your credit together. Take the time to save your down payment. Eric mentioned earlier about it's no different than going into apartment. I beg to differ. It is different than going into apartment. You're setting up a home. This is not like someone is going to come in and take care of your lawn for you and take care of your water bill and do this. You have to have the tools, the necessity of tools in order to maintain that home, keep that home, and know what's going into that home. And I don't feel like a one class thing is going to teach you that.
yeah, Eric, you mentioned, of course, the importance of home ownership, the generational wealth aspect, but is it at all cost?
So, so I wanted to speak on the comparison to an apartment. I only met the financial requirements to get into an apartment, but totally agreed. There's much more responsibility in owning a home, and I believe that the home ownership classes is a start in the right direction. The the folks that get into this program, I do believe, are going to receive higher interest rates, more points. It's a riskier loan because there is no vested interest. Of course, it'd be nice if everyone could have 20% down and 750 credit scores, but as we know, um, this is slippery slope because to achieve those credit scores, just if you look at this systemically, it is more difficult uh, as an African American to achieve all of those perfect pictures that get you 20% down. Oftentimes I'm in the industry. I deal with thousands of people, and I've been um, someone who's put thousands of people in homes, and most that look like me in my client base. So I'm very passionate about African American and Latino home ownership.
Mhm.
I oftentimes find myself being the Bank of America of the community. I've given away $10,000, 15, $20,000. I've done loans where I have absolutely no margin, no profit for my company, but to put that family in a home, uh, don't mind doing it. So I could see this, but I see another agenda. When you put folks in homes with no down payment, without the proper education, higher interest rates, those things start to sound predatory. And Bank of America, I do believe, has another agenda. It's not the short game, it's the long game. And so, as those folks pay those higher interest rates, they do gain some equity. The homes go up in value. At the end of the day, when it comes time to refinance or there's a hardship and they have not been properly educated or vetted for home ownership, there we have a problem because then those houses come back to the bank, foreclosures happen, and this is a problem that we need to keep our eyes open to. But again, the elephant in the room is that this is not exclusive to African American and Latino people. So the
Well,
program is
Eric,
not written exclusively for our folks. It's written for our community, which really could lead to a bigger predatory issue,
mhm,
which is the fact that folks can come into our communities, gentrify it, and all of a sudden we're displaced and placed in some other community
yeah.
with food deserts and everything else and lack of resources.
Yeah, and we understand too, or do we understand why there are a lot of skeptics initially? Because initially, and young lady who is posting as news with an attitude, she made it plain that this was initially, and we know at the National Newspaper Publishers Association we got their release. It was initially said for blacks and Latinos, and that has raised some eyebrows even further today with what Jeannetta was saying, that it's specifically for certain areas too. That is a cause for concern, isn't it?
Yes, it is a big cause for concern. Two reasons. One, if you notice, they are changing the voting map. Okay, they're changing a voting map. So I look at all these little dots. If you put all the dots
Hmm.
together, it comes up to a big puzzle that we really need to
Mm.
look at.
Wow, she just
So
hit.
that concerns me.
Wow, that's now that is interesting. So you connect. So the gentrific, not the gentrific, the voting, the lines that they've drawn these maps. We know what's been going on. If you haven't followed that across the country, how these, particularly in Republican-led areas and states, they're drawing these unfair maps where they're basically not giving Democrats a chance in elections anymore. And in New York, they're actually pitting uh, high profile Democrats against other high profile Democrats. So that's a amazing point you just brought out, Janetta.
Yes, yes. And then also, if you notice Bank of America, where they're rolling out this program, look at it. They're rolling it out in North Carolina, Dallas, I think Miami, Detroit. It's 5 cities. We just have to really pay attention to what is really going on here. And then also want to address something that the gentleman said earlier. Um, I understand that this is, you come into the table with no down payment. You could have money, you could have other things working with you in regards to this. But I also, I owned a mortgage company for 8 years. Okay, so I'm very astute to how the mortgage game work. There are programs out there that you don't have to have 20% down. You can have
Absolutely.
3.5% down. Okay, so we discussed it earlier, and I know you mentioned on that, and I know you understand that being a mortgage person. And then also, you don't have to have 700 credit score. You can get into a home with 600 something credit score. Um, I just really want to rem- just really emphasize that it is so important that once you step into home ownership, you can maintain that. It's not, I'm not saying it's off the board. I'm not saying anyone does not deserve to be in a home. Everyone deserves to be in a home. As a realtor, that is my dream, to put everyone in a home. But I want them to be smart about it. I don't want, just because you can have something doesn't mean it's time for you to get it right then. Because if it can be taken away from you, then it's not time for you to have it then. Just do your homework, take your time. And then again, let's go back. If Bank of America is guiding people to go over to this neighborhood to buy, you got to look at the big picture. And
You
again, I go
do.
back to Blackstone. Do your research on Blackstone and see what's been going on, and see why they wanted people to go into these communities. And then one more thing I want to point out. I wrote an article last month about our legacy is not for sale. And I did that article because people like companies like Blackstone, a lot of them was going into these neighborhoods and waving money to people. Majority was our people, and they saw some dollars and they sold their house, and now they can't get back into those communities because they boxed out. So we have to really be astute to what's going on. And it's just not Bank of America. It's Chase, it's PNC, that's a part of Blackstone that has stock in it. It's Vanguard. It's a lot of people, a lot of banks. I'm sorry, not a lot of people, but a lot of banks and a lot of companies. So all I'm saying is do your homework, ask the right questions, know what your interest rate is going to be, because it's going to be a subprime loan, no matter what they want to call it, and know what your exit strategy is if you get into trouble. And you touched on something else that it's in it for the bank. Yeah, the bank is going to make money, and when you foreclose, the bank is going to take that house back and sell it for more money.
Well, Eric, I'll let you respond before we close. That's she's laying it out.
Yes, and we are on the same page. I just wanted to emphasize that yes, you do not need 20% to get into a home. As a matter of fact, with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, they actually have a 3% down program. There are some 100% programs out there. Navy Federal comes to mind, but those come with high credit standards. So I wanted to touch on the fact that you can borrow down to a 580 credit score with FHA and still get a 3.5% down payment mortgage. So it's not a lot of money that needs to be saved in order to achieve home ownership. Down payment has to come from your own funds or a gift. However, closing costs can be paid in full by the seller of the home. So very similar. So 3.5% on 200,000 is $7,000. It can come from a gift. In regards to the underwriting standards that are being placed in front of those folks with Bank of America versus what is available now, these are the exact standards of what is called alternative credit. So someone that comes in and does not have a credit score can still achieve a 3.5% down FHA loan today with no Bank of America in place. This has been going on for years. They use their phone bill. They show other forms of alternative credit, their cell phone bill, the gas and electric bill, prove that these things are in their name, paid on time for the last 12 months, that they have 24 or 12 months of on-time rent payments, and voila, they're in the home. The debt to income ratio standards are reduced, meaning that they do have to show that they can afford those payments. I believe this is exactly what's going to happen with Bank of America. So my issue is not that folks will be able to get this program that are African American and that this is such a predatory loan. My problem is bigger in um, that I believe that these are not exclusive to African American folks. What Jeanette pointed out about the political side of this
Mhm.
and moving the lines, putting folks that don't look like us into those communities for whatever reasons they may be and displacing those folks. So if they're coming into African American and brown communities, right? Who's moving? Who is the seller? And the same waving of the money that she spoke to, um, if it's an African American and brown community, then the people that are selling the homes must be African American and brown. Who are they selling to? Are they selling to other African American and brown folks? What I think is that there is some agenda there
Mhm.
to make this look like a program that's going to increase home ownership for African Americans and Latino folks, and that is not what the end agenda. I believe there's a hidden agenda here.
Well, a couple quick things. We're going to have to close, but news with an attitude. I want to highlight that it's amazing how so many of us, she says, didn't factor negative equity and possibly being upside down. Since this is not a federally backed loan, Bank of America doesn't have to factor this. Are we being set up? Quick question for both of you. Now, we know Bank of America's, you guys have highlighted the problems they've had with African Americans. There's other banks have had problems. Is there banks you would recommend, I should say, for African Americans and other minorities?
I wouldn't say that I would recommend banks. What I would say is I would recommend brokers. Go to a broker. Your broker can shop the best interest rate and the best, all the best criterias for you. When you go to a one-stop shop, which is a bank, they just going to give you what they have to offer. They're not shopping. When you go to a broker, the broker can pull from different avenues to see what's best for you. So that's what I would recommend. I wouldn't recommend going to a bank. I would recommend going to a broker.
And Eric, what about credit unions?
Credit unions can be a good stop. However, I'll agree with Jeanette that banks, and then secondly, credit unions do have a limited uh, amount of flexibility. They do cater more to your higher credit score person. They have no flexibility, and what they have is what they have. With what I do is I am a direct lender who has the ability to broker. So if the round peg doesn't fit in the square hole, or vice versa, there is flexibility there to be able to shop around and find alternative solutions to still get someone in a home at the best rates and to be able to advise them responsibly. Everyone doesn't work a 9 to 5 job and have a W-2 income and have a 720 credit score. So those folks are also well served working with a lender like myself. We're very competitive and oftentimes will beat out banks and credit unions because of the expanded criteria of giving more ability to buy um, in a home that may be at a higher price, or that you need a little bit of expanded flexibility. They're very rigid in their
Yeah.
underwriting. And so
And
it doesn't often serve the consumer as well.
in 5 seconds, Eric, how do people reach out to you?
I'm easy to reach by phone, 410-844-3930. We're right in Pikesville, Maryland. Or you can give me an email at
You got a
Stewart.
website?
Website is realfimd.com.
Say it one more time.
realfimd.com. That's REALFIMD.com.
And Jeannetta, for the best information on this and other things related to specifically for African Americans getting a home loan, what they should know, where would you direct them to?
Um, for the best information, I would direct them to a mortgage broker. That's what I would direct them to.
Mhm.
But if you're trying to contact me for more information that I can help lead you in it, my cell number is 469-995-1957, 469-995-1957. You can go to my website, JeannettaCollier.com, and also DFWRealestateAdvisors.com. You can reach me there. So,
Yeah. Great.
yeah.
Reach out. Jeannetta wants to make sure y'all reach her. So make sure you do that. The websites, Eric, always great to have Eric. This is really a privilege. This is some great information. Jeannetta Collier, a real estate expert in Dallas, Texas. Eric Stewart, mortgage expert in Baltimore. He can help you out. Jeannetta can help you out. And that's what the Black Press is here for, y'all, to help everyone. Thanks for joining Let It Be Known. We'll see you tomorrow.